I'm Charlotte Jones, co-host of the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock on WJZZ Cool TV. Also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public Schools superintendent, a former world-class athlete, conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, a longtime civil rights crusader, and author of 7 books: Creative Insubordination, What Old Men Know, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, The Poet Emperor of Earth, and his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run. Plus, another upcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs, a Detroit poetic epic. His books are available on Amazon.com or by calling 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. Telford has been called a legend and also a lightning rod for controversy, a recipient of the City Council Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. He was named Wayne State University's Alumnus of the Year, and a Detroit track is named for him. His email is drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. That's dr.johntelfordedd@aol.com. Dr. Telford also has a show on WCHB AM 1340 that airs on Saturdays at 9:30 in the morning and Mondays at 6:30 in the evening. That's on WCHB AM 1340, Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and Mondays at 6:30 p.m. And now, without further ado, I present to you that old native Detroiter, the one and only Dr. John Telford.
Thank you, Char J., author of A Ain't Always for Apple. A Ain't Always for Apple, an erotic adult alphabet book, which is just a very well-written book and some beautiful pictures in there, and you all ought to be buying that book.
Yes.
Yes, my name is Detroit. I'm a blue-collar town. Blue salt melts my mid-March snow. Speedy cars and sprinters spring from me. I father fierce fighters in funky music. In a Motown moment, I can spit the blues right back in a bureaucrat's eye. Have you never seen blue salt? No complex chemistry here, only the old color of a new sky. And there's a new sky dawning on Detroit today because we've got Scotty Bowman. We've got Scotty Bowman, my friend, my fellow activist, in the studio today, and we're going to be interviewing him on some very crucial issues. But I want to say this first. I was at the Detroit Public Schools Community District Board of Education again last evening over at King High School. And, you know, I have a vision in my heart. You know, this is a poetry program. I always got to do a little poetry. I have a vision in my heart and in my spirit and my soul that all the children of Detroit will never have to pay the toll of poverty and anguished mind or end up dead or on the dole, but will through education find their life-fulfilling future goal. And they're not going to find their life-fulfilling future goal. Our kids aren't going to find it if they don't know how to read.
Exactly.
Now, I teach poetry at Frederick Douglass High School, and I'm the poet in residence for the Detroit Public Schools. I go around to all the high schools, and last year I was teaching poetry at Southeastern High School. And I had senior classes there, and my kids couldn't read. My seniors couldn't read. My juniors at Frederick Douglass this past year couldn't read. We've got to do something about that. And I told the Board of Education last night, I told them again, please use the Quick to Learn program, the Quick to Learn 2 Sigma program, because it is effective. and it has research behind it at the elementary school level. And also use Helen Moore's Let's Read program as a supplement, as an amalgamation of she has some volunteers working there, but the Quick to Learn program is a program they need. Now, I have no problem with the Beyond Basics program at the secondary level. The Beyond Basics program is a program that they have been using. It's not working at the elementary level. And when you use something that's not working and continue to use it and it's not working, that, as I told the school board last evening, is a form of insanity. You can't keep doing what isn't working and expect it to start working. Also, they need to get a program that teaches the secondary teachers to teach reading. To teach phonics-based reading, because these secondary kids can't read. We don't want them to graduate not being able to read, okay? So, and I know that Dr. Vitti and Angelique Peterson Mayberry, the school board president, do listen to this show, and I send it to them too to make sure that they get a copy of it. So let's please do that. Use an amalgamation of Quick to Learn, Beyond Basics, and Let's Read, and do Beyond Basics at the secondary level, and Quick to Learn and Let's Read at the elementary level. Please do that, folks. Okay, Char J was one of the panelists in our wonderful poetry program that we did, and I was so impressed. With the poet, Aurora Harris. I knew that she'd be great. She's one of the best poets in the city.
She was awesome.
And she was our feature poet. And Dewante Buggs actually carried my books for me, and I would like to have him on this program. I'm going to send this show to him too. He is actually he's studying at Taiwan University. And there was a young lady who was really magnificent, Ife Martin.
Is it Ife or Ife?
Is it? I think she said Ife. Her name is Ife Martin, and
we'll have her on and ask her.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do, because I'm going to invite her to come on this show too. She's going to Howard University and probably be going toward the end of the month, so we're going to have to get her. We're going to have to get her before then. But anyway, after I got all that preamble and preliminary stuff out of the way, Scotty, welcome to the John Telford Show.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a resident of Detroit. I was born and raised there. Lived in some of the neighboring suburbs now and then. Also studied over in Kalamazoo. I am currently the founder of Detroit Residents Advancing Civilian Oversight, which is a group I founded to improve oversight of the Detroit Police Department and raise awareness about what the Board of Police Commissioners is. I am also a former member of the Community Advisory Council in District 4 of Detroit. I circulated the petitions to create that Community Advisory Council.
Yeah, I met you at one of those meetings because I was trying to get their support for a track at over on Chandler Park, because there's a field house coming up, a domed field house, $12.6 million field house that the mayor said is going to be built over there, and everybody's contending to see what kind of sport is going to be contested in there, and I'm of course pushing for track and field, because we don't have a track field house in the city of Detroit. We're one of the big cities one of the few big cities our size that does not have one. But Scotty, what's your? You sent me some questions, and I'm going to kind of stick to the script. What's your involvement in Detroit government?
Okay, well, I had mentioned that I have been on the Community Advisory Council in Detroit. I was chairperson of the first cycle, if you will, of the Community Advisory Council after it was brought into being, for the first year, in other words. And that's something where I petitioned all over the 4th District of Detroit to help create that, and then afterward I ran for that office and was elected to it. Also, other things I've done with Detroit city government is I was the organizer, one of actually two chairpersons for the citizen focus group that the Charter Commission had organized specifically to address the portion of the charter pertaining to police and oversight of police.
You ran for police commissioner, didn't
And
you?
I also have been a candidate for a
Yeah.
number of things, including police commissioner.
You know,
Yes.
my police commissioner in my district is Willie Burton, and he's a firebrand. You know, he's also a member of the National Action Network, as am I. I'm a lifetime member.
So,
And go ahead.
where is District 4? You said you were in.
Oh, District 4 is on the far east side of Detroit. So it's the part of Detroit that touches up against the Grosse Points and
East
Harper
English
Woods.
Village and Harper Woods. Okay.
Yeah, and Willie, I was talking about Willie Burton. You know, Willie is actually my manager now. I guess along with you, you're going to be doing something for I am running for the school board. I have finally decided at the age of 86 that the only way to get this reading program fixed is if I get on there and try to do it myself. But anyway, this isn't about the school board today. Define community advisory council. What is that?
Okay, well, it's designed to improve communication between city council and residents. And some people were concerned that it would put some kind of barrier between them and their council person. That's not it at all. It's not a wall, it's a bridge. And the idea was to basically that when the city council was going to vote on something that specifically affects people in that district, that the council representative is supposed to consult with members of the community advisory council before moving forward with the vote on that particular issue.
Mm-hmm.
Most issues are citywide, so usually that isn't going to be what has to happen, but there's still a role to be played in making the city council aware of what concerns are on the priority list of people in the district, as well as getting word out to members of that district on different matters that the city council is doing that will affect them.
So, what's the Community Advisory Council? Who sits on that council? Is it
Well, right
citizens?
now, elected people. There are 5 elected persons, and there are 2 appointed persons, and unfortunately, we've often had cases where not every position was filled immediately in an election. But the way it works is you're supposed to have 5 people elected at large from the district, at large within the district, but not citywide. And those people get on, and then they recommend appointees to the council representative, who then brings those appointee recommendations to the council for approval. So right now we actually do have, and I don't remember the name of the youth representative on the current Community Advisory Council, but I know like right now the current chairperson is Adrian Green, and then other members include Dennis Bryant, Jocelyn
I
Harris.
thought Dennis was chairing it.
He was de facto until they had a vote on it formally, and
Oh,
at that
okay.
point Adrian Green took over.
Because Dennis has been in touch with me and has asked to come on this show representing that council. But he's not the chair. I thought he was the chair.
He was acting chair when they first established it. I mean,
I'm
when
gonna let him
not
on
when they
anyway,
first
you know.
established it. I meant after the most recent election, because when they first established it, I was chair. But
okay.
after the most recent election, Dennis was the only person who actually had his name on the ballot for the vote. Other people were write-in candidates. And then after the election, he then, just assuming, because he had been the name on there, it's sort of like with my situation when I was elected there, took on the role of chair. But at some point they had a formal vote on the matter, and I don't know if there had been any discussion beforehand, but the way it turned out is Adrian Green is currently the chairperson. And
Well, Dennis has asked to come on this show, and I told him, sure, I'll
Yeah.
probably be bringing him on sometime in September. But he can still
Yeah.
represent them, even though he's not the chair.
I assume unless the chair objected, and I don't necessarily think the chair did, I don't see any
Okay.
reason why it would be a problem. Rose Jones is another elected person to that. And then interim filling a vacancy up until someone's elected to it. There's Rhonda Diaz, or her last name may have changed to Thies recently. So those are the people on there. And there's a youth representative. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name.
Okay. Well, Letitia Johnson was the one that was the honcho there for years, as I understand, and she's on the council now.
She's on the city council, and she actually was not on the
wasn't she?
The community advisory council. No,
Oh, okay.
she had other organization. There's an organization called Mecca that I know she was a key person on, and I'm not sure if she was the executive director or something like that. I mean, she was
Okay.
one of the big organizers for that, and I know she was on the police community relations council in some role as an officer on that beforehand.
I met her years ago when she was working at the River House where I live, and she's a wonderful lady, and now she's on
Yes.
our city council, and I'm hoping that she'll be instrumental in getting this track built in the Chandler Park, but I think we're ready for...
We are. You're watching WJZZ Cool TV, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like us, follow us, share us, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world.
And we are interviewing Scotty Bowman, my friend and fellow activist, and we're going to have some very interesting things to say to Scotty, and he's going to have some very interesting things to say to us. But before I get back to doing that, I just want to say what I like to always say: citywide, countywide, statewide, nationwide, worldwide, if we could, vote straight Democratic, because we've got a real problem right now with saving our democracy, and there is no Republican Party anymore. It's a Retrumplican Party. You've got a bunch of fascists in Congress. We've got to get them out of there. There are 137 of them, Republicans who aren't Republicans. So whatever you voted before, vote straight Democratic. I've got to get that in. And I'm very, very concerned. It looks, though, like Merrick Garland, they're going after him now because he's, he's going after Trump big time. He's invaded Mar-a-Lago. Is that the word, invaded, raided? I don't know what he did, but he had a judge's permission to do it. And Merrick Garland is a very, very painstaking individual. There's no way that he would be doing this if he didn't have the total goods on Trump. So I'm still hoping. Trump is probably the only president we've ever had who wants to run for president to stay out of prison. But anyway, Scotty, you're going to have to forgive me for my little social commentary and political commentary because it's just what I do. But tell me a little bit more about what Draco is. Say what that
Draco.
Draco. Say what that.
And when I was growing up all my life, Draco spelled Draco, and all of a sudden people started pronouncing it Draco about 4 years ago.
Well, I just
don't
saw it for the
understand
first
why
time.
that is, but
I just saw this. It looks like Draco. I mean, if it was Draco,
Draco, as in the astrological or the, it's not astrological sign, but the
Constellation.
the constellation. Yeah,
yeah, I would have spelled
Draco
it
the dragon.
Draco the Dragon. I would have spelled it Drakko, but then it wouldn't fit the acronym. But anyway,
But that's how it's pronounced. Anyway, it is an acronym though.
yeah.
And it's Detroit Residents Advancing Civilian Oversight.
Detroit Residents Advancing
Correct.
Civilian Oversight, and that I presume is civilian oversight of the police department.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, talk a little bit about Draco.
Detroit. The idea was because I decided to found the organization actually after I first ran for Board of Police Commissioners in 2017. And during that time, what I learned in the course of walking through the neighborhoods and talking to community members was that most people believed a police commissioner was supposed to be a police officer. And unfortunately, I think most people still believe that we're trying to get the word out, and I think there might be some more discussion along the lines that it is oversight and doesn't need to be a police officer, but I think most people still think that somehow that would be a qualifier for that role, and it actually isn't, because Oversight of the police includes disciplining police officers for misconduct, and it is supposed to be a civilian oversight body designed to hold officers accountable where we're really representing the civilians' interests when there is a problem with members of the police department. And so I said I shouldn't have done it, but they are supposed to. And so the mission of Draco initially became simply educating people on what the Board of Police Commissioners was, because so many people seem to not understand that aspect of it. A lot of people thought of it as a upper brass within the police department, or something.
Well, in some
akin
cities
to
it is.
internal
Police
affairs.
commissioner sometimes is just another word for police chief.
Oh, and that's true. And
so it is confusing if you don't know.
right. And in
'Cause I would
Detroit,
think that would be better. I mean, I'm just listening to this now, but I would think that being a police officer, you can see the things from within the police department. And as a civilian, you don't have access to what's going on in the department.
and that is a common belief. The problem is that civilians see things differently than police because they have a different life experience. And there is a tendency, and more importantly, and there's the really big one, especially if you're dealing with people who are from the same department, is there is a bit of a solidarity that circles the wagons. That circles the wagons so that people, when there is a officer who's in trouble because he did something improper, that other officers will come to his defense and back him up, and not really be necessarily in pursuit of the truth. Actually, in some cases, if the truth is hurtful to one of the fellowship, if you will. That I'm not saying they all do this, but it is very common for the officers to circle the wagon and defend that officer.
And I understand that now that you say it like that.
You had me. You acquainted me with a serious problem last week that involved the beating of a helpless, unclothed woman in the hospital. Named Sheldy Smith, and the perpetrator of this beating was a member of the Detroit Police Department named Dwayne Jones, and so you had me over there, over in front of the 36th District Court. I was standing there on my cane, and I was surrounded by a whole bunch of folks who were picketing. Tell us a little bit about what happened between Dwayne Jones and Sheldy Smith.
Well, it originally back in actually, and it was exactly 4 years ago to the day of that hearing last week on the 1st of August, but in 2018, that Sheldy Smith, there was a call and regarding that maybe her behavior was a little erratic or something to that effect, and there was the matter of not being fully clothed, that caused officers to show up. And they took her to the emergency room at Receiving Hospital. Now, at that point, hospital staff should have taken over. And but instead what happened was, and there were some things that happened off camera, but it'd be hearsay to repeat them. But there were some things that apparently happened off camera. But what happened when, at some point, when Sheldy started shouting, is one of the people in the emergency room started recording what was happening, and one of the officers was holding her back, and Officer Dwayne Jones was punching her multiple times, rapidly. And it was quite clear that that he was punching her out, and it's on video. And
Thank God it's on video.
yeah, and if that had not, and that video actually got out well after the incident, and it kind of went viral for a while before people figured out even who the people in the video were.
Okay.
But if it wasn't, yes, if it was not for that video, no one would have known about this. But because someone, a citizen with a phone sitting in the emergency recorded this, that we were able to find out what happened. And then, as it turns out, there was other video because you had body cams and there was security video in the hospital. So fortunately, quite a lot of evidence on this beating was available. The only person directly charged in the beating was the man throwing the punches, and that was then Corporal Dwayne Jones.
You say then corporal.
Yes, he has
Did they
since
demote
got
him?
promoted to the
Promoted.
office
Oh, wow.
of sergeant. After
They
having
promoted him after
yes,
this?
he was brought up
Knowing that he did this?
Yes, he was brought up as a convicted violent criminal, in fact. He was convicted by the court. There were actually two charges. One was a felony misconduct charge that was set aside. Now, it was dismissed without prejudice, meaning that it could be brought back, and in our opinion, myself and members of Draco and a few other people, that I've spoken with other activists, that we generally feel that the felony misconduct charges should be reinstated.
Oh, no question about it.
But he was also convicted of misdemeanor assault. And what happened then was, after he was convicted of misdemeanor assault, the Board of Police Commissioners voted against him being promoted, but because they had they allowed, and here this is very important. Right now, there's a new contract to be drawn up between between the city of Detroit and the Detroit Police Department. The last contract, and the one that to my knowledge is still in effect, had language that directly contradicted the city charter. Because the city charter says the Board of Police Commissioners shall be the final word on promotions. But somebody decided to negotiate a contract with the police union, with the Detroit Police Officer Association, that made promotions automatic, effectively, if the officers passed certain test requirements,
But that sounds
whether
to me,
or not they had criminal record or not.
But that's number one. That it sounds like it's in violation of the city charter.
It is in violation of the city charter.
And number two, I mean, this man got promoted after he
In violation of the city charter, because our city officials negotiated a contract that contained a workaround to get around the contract contradicted the charter, and the court determined, an unelected arbiter determined that the contract was more important than the city charter. And so, but now here's the other thing, is actually the attorney at the time for the Board of Police Commissioners said that they could appeal this, and they had some grounds for an appeal. However, at that point, the Board of Police Commissioners chickened out. So effectively, they knew they were making a symbolic
are our
vote.
representation.
Right.
They are civilian
Right.
representation, and
Yeah.
they chickened out.
Right. They knew they were making, in other words, a straw vote when they went and voted, or at least some of them did. Other ones may have been sincere, and I know some of them were sincere. But and I'm not sure all of them were, when they voted that he not be promoted. Because if they really meant it, they would have followed through with the lawsuit.
Was that a unanimous vote?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Unanimous that it was improper action. The other aspect of this is that they could also reform the training of officers, and have not done so, because after the beating took place, there was a vote on whether to suspend with or without pay, and here they voted to suspend with pay, meaning he got to be paid, got a vacation basically. That a whole line of like 20 or 30 police officers, the Board of Police Commissioners,
they voted to suspend him with pay. The Board of Police Commissioners voted to suspend this man with pay.
Yes.
This man should not have been suspended. He should have been fired. In my
Oh,
view.
absolutely. He should still be fired.
Absolutely is right.
So I would want to know, like, what provoked him to do that, to beat her, number one? And number two, would that have maybe constituted why they decided, oh, well, maybe nothing should take away from what he did? I'm not saying that. I'm asking, why did he do, or what was his reasoning for doing that? And is that a reason why they?
Well, he claims she spit on him.
Okay,
Now,
that's
she was
okay.
shouting, so, when people shout,
Sometimes a
they
little
spray.
saliva goes out.
Yeah, so that was one of the claims.
You
But
still shouldn't hit
again,
her.
but again, that's not the way to handle it. And the thing is, the hospital staff know how to deal with patients that are unruly. And I've been one myself. Actually, there was a case where I was coming out of sedation, and my behavior was quite irrational. And but they know how to handle me without punching me out. Mm-hmm. And I'm a full grown man, and here we're dealing with this this woman who is not nearly as
what is her age? What is her
as
age?
I am, or as strong.
How old
as
is
I
Sheldy
am.
Smith? What is her age?
I don't know.
Is she an elder, or is she?
No, she's I guess young to middle age.
Okay.
She's a mother.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And that was another thing. She separated from her daughter. Jones gets a promotion. Meanwhile, she is a prisoner.
Right.
Unreal.
And she didn't, not based on a crime, but based upon our broken guardianship system.
Good Lord.
You're watching WJZZ Cool TV, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Also, the Senior Expo and Health Fair is Saturday, August 27th. 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. There will be live entertainment at the Ernest T. Ford Recreation Center, 10 Pitkin Street, Highland Park, Michigan. It is a free event, so stop by.
And we are interviewing my friend and fellow activist Scotty Bowman on the John Telford Detroit Show on WJZZ Cool TV this morning. And I also need to mention that I have been able to obtain contact information for the case manager of Isidore Baker. Now, I left a message with the case manager of Isidore Baker. Isidore Baker is the senior citizen who lost all of his belongings and his identification in an apartment fire. The only thing he rescued was his cell phone and his cell phone cord, and thank God that he did that. But now I have got this information that's been given to me by Ari Ruttenberg, who has been very helpful. Ari Ruttenberg works for Council President Mary Sheffield, and he gave me the case manager's name. Her name is Claudia Sanford. Claudia Sanford, and I have her phone number now. I'm not going to give it out on this show, at least not yet. But I have called her to get in touch with Mr. Baker to get him a Social Security card so he can become a person again. Right now he's a non-person. So Claudia, if you happen to be listening or watching this show today, please be in touch with me, John Telford, 313-460-8272. And any of you who are watching the show today, if you want to help Mr. Isidore Baker, I know a lot of you preachers listen to me on WCHB, and I'll be sending some of you this show as well, and maybe you may be watching it as well. His phone number, Isidore Baker's phone number, senior citizen Isidore Baker's phone number, is 248-445-9347. That's 248-445-9347. Because we've got to get this old guy a Social Security card. I don't know if he even has a bank account. He apparently doesn't, because right now he's going to soup kitchens to eat. And I don't know how long he's going to be able to stay in the place where he is. So please, let's. I hope that Claudia Sanford does get in touch with me very soon so we can help this guy. You know, how long have we been trying to help him now, Char? How long is it?
Since I first came on the show, it was in April when you mentioned it.
Yeah, April.
It was in April.
You know, this is just taking way too long. But anyway, we are interviewing Scotty Bowen, my friend and fellow activist, and we're...
So, I have a question, Scotty. Was he given any type of training before he was promoted? What was done? He didn't get time or suspended or fired. Well, suspended with pay, like you said, vacation. Was there any type of sensitivity training given? Because this was really...
There was no, as far as I know, there was no training specific to this incident. The consequence he faced was probation. That he was sentenced to probation, and but what I was going to bring up about the training was that when he was originally up for that suspension without pay, or when they gave him suspension with pay, that there were several officers, actually maybe about 30 of them lined up, all of them claiming that their training taught them to do exactly what he did, and he did the right thing, and they were all defending him that way. Now, if that's true and you take them at their word, then and the Board of Police Commissioners voted unanimously that he not be promoted because he wasn't acting properly, then the question is open. Why haven't they reset policy and retrained officers in light of this behavior that apparently they claim they were told is okay? Because if that's the case, then they need to retrain all these people, and they need to retrain, when I say people, I mean all of the officers, really, because any one of them could end up in a situation like this. Right. And to the best of my knowledge, nothing like that has transpired. If they've done it, they've kept it on the down low. And as far as I know, everything's an open book with the Board of Police Commissioners. They're under the Open Meetings Act. It's supposed to be all out there. Doesn't necessarily mean it is, but it's supposed to be. So that's a big issue right there, and perhaps that's what he's trying to hang his hat on, going into trying to get a new trial, because now he's going for a new trial, which means in effect that his previous guilty verdict is set aside pending a new trial. But the point is, he should have known that what he was doing was wrong, and anyone watching it using common sense would conclude that what he was doing was wrong.
Because it was obvious she was having some type of incident. They arrested her, she was without clothing. That alone tells you that something's going on. So to me, there was no sensitivity in his actions in any way, shape, or form. So, and you said somebody was holding her?
Yeah, there was one of the officers actually was there was one officer trying to pull her back, and another one trying to pull Jones back. Okay. But he kept moving in on her, yeah.
So there were other policemen there.
Yeah.
And they saw him hitting her.
Yeah, actually, there's a man and a woman with them, so there were a total of 3 officers present.
It seems to me that the other officers who were present should have been doing more to stop him from hitting her.
And one of them was trying to pull him back. There was this woman behind him trying to pull him back, but she was not successful in restraining them. And I think she actually was one of the people testifying at the trial that he had just lost it, were her words describing Jones's behavior.
How did you find out about this incident?
I found out about it watching the news, and the reason we found out about it and that the media found out about it was because of that person with a cell phone who recorded video back in 2018 in that room. So that's how I found out about it, and I heard about this person. And then not long after, I'd been following the Board of Police Commissioner meetings already, and observed this vote on suspension, and it was a strange vote because it wasn't really clear if you watched the video how people were voting. There were people not fully raising their hands. Commissioner Bell, it seemed like, wasn't really voting, but at one point it seemed like he was voting against suspending without pay, but then it wasn't really clear because if you watch it, it just wasn't. And then later on he's claiming, oh no, he voted to suspend. So who knows how that actually went. In any case,
Commissioner, was he a policeman before?
Yeah, and he was a veteran police officer for think 30 years or something like that.
I'm not sure it's a great idea to have former policemen on the civilian oversight. Is that a good or bad idea? I don't know.
Well, and in my opinion, it's a bad idea, though. Again, the general public apparently doesn't see it that way, but I think if they fully understood the purpose of the Board of Police Commissioners, they would see it that way. It's much harder to educate the public on something than to tell them what they already want to hear, is what I found out.
Right.
But no, it isn't, because it's a conflict of interest, especially if the person is a former DPD officer, because then they're really overseeing
those are your
their
comrades, your former
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And so, and it gets back to that whole fellowship thing and the blue line and all that.
Right.
So, in my opinion, no, and in fact, that was part of the city charter that we had proposed, the People's Charter that was voted on as Proposal P, that the voters rejected, that would have barred former law enforcement officers from being...
That Proposal P, we should have passed that. But, you get all this dark money spent, and this is also my worry about what's going to happen with the school board, very frankly. But this guy should not only not have been promoted, he should have been fired.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a new trial coming up.
Yes, and the thing that we were doing last week, August 1st, on the 4th anniversary of the beating, was what they call the final pre-trial, but it wasn't really final, because then what they did is the judge, Lenny Bryant, decided to move the final pre-trial to today.
Today is the trial.
Yes, so today at 11 a.m. is the pre-trial, the final pre-trial hearing again. And
well, this show's going to be over at 11 o'clock today. We got to get over there and do some picketing.
That's right. And so, we're going to be having a press conference from 11:30 to 12:15 at the 36th District Court down by Madison and Brush. And
those who are listening to this live, tell them how to get there.
It's over at Madison and Brush, 36th District Court. It's not far from Greektown and Gratiot. It's over in that area. It's on Madison. And you can go down there and join us if you'd like. You can link to going to 36th District Court. I just search for, I think it's .org, but you search for 36th District Court. And on that website, there's also links so you can see what's happening inside of the courtroom. So we're going to try to, have some knowledge of what actually went on in the courtroom and have some response to it. Because it may just be another rescheduling of the pretrial to yet another date. I think they've been kind of kicking the can down the road a while.
Why
the
is
trial
that?
is scheduled in September.
I mean, what are they afraid of? Why is
this? I think he's afraid of another guilty verdict is what he's afraid of, and what he wants, obviously, is to get a not guilty verdict. Or here's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about a motion to dismiss being successful, and if the judge dismisses with prejudice, then that's the end of the assault charge.
Well, that would be a stone miscarriage of justice if that happened.
And you said Miss Smith is where now?
She is effectively not quite a ward of the state, but a ward of a custodian that has her in an institution. This person is kind of notorious. Her name's Mary Rowan, and she's been rather notorious for kind of having a plantation of many people that she has guardianship over, and she collects money supposedly for their care, but I don't know how much she can keep or whatever. And this has been in spite of the fact that there are family members willing to care for her. And unfortunately, I guess she just has a good relationship with certain judges that allows her to continue doing this.
And there was no lawsuit filed on behalf of...
Oh, there was actually a lawsuit filed and they lost.
Okay.
And like I said, I think she probably has a pretty good relationship with some judges in order to pull that off.
Well, the initial trial... What was the punishment again?
The punishment was probation.
Probation.
Yes.
This is for a policeman who beat a helpless woman with mental problems. He beat her when she was naked in an emergency room. My daddy would not have liked that. My father was a Scot. They have a code. You don't hit women, number one. You protect animals. You protect old people, but you do not hit a woman. Now, police. Our police department. They're supposed to be protecting us. Protecting us. This is a very strange way to protect someone, to beat a woman. No, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm making too much of this, but I not only believe that this man should not have been promoted. I think that was ridiculous. Why? How? Who? Who would do this?
The Detroit Police Department, and again, it was because they have and hopefully they negotiate a contract that's different about this, but I'm not very optimistic because at several Board of Police Commissioner meetings I brought this up and they're silent on the whole matter.
Silent?
They're silent on the matter of negotiating a contract that conforms to the city charter. No official, and in my opinion, any official who negotiates a contract that to circumvent the city charter, in my opinion, should be removed from office. If this person is violating their oath of office by even doing that, and that those people, since as an oversight body, the Board of Police Commissioners should see that any official that negotiates such a contract should be fired.
Yes, they should.
It's unconscionable that this is allowed to go on. But unfortunately, I don't think maybe there hasn't been enough attention on this that the proper level of outrage rise up in the community to say no to such a thing. But apparently that's the case. It seems like no one really cares. And effectively the charter is impotent as long as, one, you have contracts that violate the charter, and two, the city is unwilling to appeal decisions that put contracts above the city charter.
Yeah. You're watching the Dr. John Telford Detroit Show on WJZZ Cool TV, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ TV, the coolest station in the world, and join us for the Senior Health Expo and Health Fair on Saturday, August 27th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. There will be live entertainment. That'll be at the Ernest T. Ford Recreation Center, 10 Pitkin Street in Highland Park, Michigan, and the event is free.
Thank you, Char J. My co-host today, author of A Ain't Always for Apple, an erotic adult alphabet book, written by Char J. Char J, a.k.a. Charlotte Jones. And while you're at it, I gotta tell you that I would like you to purchase this book here. This is my book, A Life on the Run, Seeking and Safeguarding Social Justice. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. And I've just signed a copy of my book to my friend Scotty Bowman, whom we are interviewing today. And I also need to say, before I forget, Miss Virginia Starkey, fondly known as V, simply as V, the proprietress of V's Boutique, offers a wide range of fine clothing and accessories for ladies. And you can find all sizes of women's fine apparel in V's one-stop excellent customer service at V's Boutique that you can't find anywhere else in Detroit. You can't find it there anymore. And V's is at 16423 East Warren Avenue. 16423 East Warren Avenue, right around the corner from the Alger Theater and right around the corner from one of the only libraries that is still open. And V's Boutique can be contacted at 313 662 is 248 662 6622. That's 248 662 6622. And I have one other one other statement that I have to make about an excellent establishment. Actually, it's my favorite restaurant. That, along with the yacht club, is my favorite restaurant. Maybe we can go eat at the yacht club after we pick it. We're going to be hungry. And you can't do it today,
No, I
but
can't.
okay. But anyway, but this is another favored restaurant of mine, and I actually had its proprietor on this very show. That's that is Mark Blank Senior, because Mark Blank Senior and Mark Blank Junior run Sinbad's Restaurant. It's over on East Jefferson, on the Detroit River, in Detroit, on Detroit's east side. And in my opinion, Sinbad's Restaurant is, if not the best restaurant in Detroit, one of the two best restaurants in Detroit, if I count the grill at the Yacht Club. And the grill at the Yacht Club, of course, is over at 1 Riverbank Drive on Belle Isle. And we are interviewing Scotty Bowman today. We've got our work cut out for us, apparently, with this particular issue that we are discussing. Because Dwayne Jones, as I understand it, is still on the police force.
Oh, yes, and he's been promoted to sergeant.
Let's sum all those up together. He's still in the police force. Why is he still there? And what can we do about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, the reason he's still there, I already brought up, is because of the fact that the contract, contrary to the charter, makes the promotions effectively automatic after officers, serve a certain amount of time and pass an exam. And apparently it doesn't matter if they're convicted criminals or not. And at the time of the promotion, he actually had not been granted the second trial. So he was, at the time, the conviction was effective. And he was on probation. So apparently violent criminals can be police officers in Detroit. Which is interesting because you see, if you watch them approving applications to the academy, people get rejected for reasons that are outright trivial compared to this. But, so it is. Once you're in, you're under that protection. So that's part of it. What can we do about it? First of all, get on the case of the Board of Police Commissioners and other people in the city government, the city council, the mayor, and insist that they do not negotiate a contract that violates the charter. Number one, there needs to be a clause directly in the contract stating that in all matters where there is disagreement between the language of the contract and the charter, that the language of the charter is supreme. That needs to be in the contract, because then that way they can't use it to circumvent the charter. That's one. Two, keep this issue alive. For instance, we're going down there to pick and have the press conference, not because we think the judge is going to have a different verdict because of we're out there, not because we think any juror necessarily is going to make a different decision because there's protesters out there, but because we need to keep the light of day on this case so that we don't have simple, brushing under the rug dismissals of the case, that is not forgotten. Contact, Prosecutor Worthy and insist that she reinstate the felony misconduct charges. In which case, even if the misdemeanor assault charges were to somehow be set aside, there would still be something else that he could be charged with. Okay. These are things that we need to keep people aware of. We need to stay on your Board of Police Commissioners about policy and training, because apparently, again, at least the excuse is that this person was trained to do what he did, and there's all these other and if that's a systemic problem, let's say he's removed, let's say he quits today, let's say he's fired. Well, if all these other officers really were trained to do the same thing, and they do the same thing, then we have a problem that's a lot bigger than one man.
Yeah, okay.
We have a problem that's the whole department.
That's a good point.
John, did you want to read your point?
I sure do, because I know we're running out of time, and we've been interviewing Scotty Bowman, and we're going to head over to the 36th District Court to Pickett right after this show. And join us there if you can.
Come on, John.
The poem is called "The Turd That Hasn't Flushed," otherwise known as Uncivil Warfare, and I wrote the poem on the 6th of January in 2021. And you know what date that was? On this evil and fatal occasion of the Capitol building invasion, the traitor Trump's collusion demands his execution. God yet hasn't pushed a lever on the traitor Trump forever. And when he does, I hope it's a lever of the gas chamber. Thank you for listening.
To the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John
Right in
Telford
fast.
and co-host Charlotte Jones on WJZZ Detroit Internet Television, coming to you live every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. Also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Contact Dr. Telford at 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Or at Dr. John Telford, EDD, at AOL.com. That's DrJohnTelford, EDD, at AOL.com.